so many ways, I am just like him. He was also a father figure, which we did not have consistency in our lives. I remember when everyone moved to California, I was just devastated. We followed not long after. Ronnie went with me to get me registered into my new high school, Patrick Henry. He did everything for us. He even got me a tryout with the band director, and I made it as baton twirler. When I was 14, I started working with him at Beverly Security when it was on Juanita Street. He instilled a great work ethic and taught me a lot. I also took over for our mom and worked for him in his tiny little itty-bitty office in La Jolla, where San Diego Maid was in its early years. Ron always made it fun. He always encouraged me to grow and do what I love. Without his guidance and advice, I would not have accomplished what I did in my work career. Another great thing Ron did for me was to explain politics and how the major parties worked and what they stood for. We came from a family of Democrats, being from Massachusetts, but Ron went over to the Republican side and I followed him. He was among the young Republicans and introduced me and Sissy to them. We went to the convention when it was in San Diego. He won an award from them as well and was president of the Central Committee. I had so many learning opportunities being around Ron, but one thing I will always cherish most is the long, long, long talks we had. I loved hearing him speak about all kinds of things. He was a master at this, and his vision and creativity were remarkable. I used to live across the street from Ron and Ellen. I used to babysit for Pia all the time. It was Ron who looked out for me and found me that place when I returned to Cape Cod after spending the summer there. I will never forget my Uncle Rod. I will miss him terribly. He was very comforting to me when Mom died and explained to me what I had really done for her when all I felt was guilt. What he did for me in my life was tremendous, and I shall never forget that or the wonderful memories of my life with him. I love you, Ronnie. So next we have my boyfriend Taylor. He wanted to just say a couple things because I know my dad made a big impact in his life.
You'll have to forgive me, I just spent the last 10 minutes trying to describe to McKenna where Ron is. I've known Ron for a short time, because 2 years ago, I fell in love with his beautiful daughter, Pia, who we've all met tonight. As most of you know, however, it didn't take much interaction with Ron for him to make a big impact in your life. More than anyone in my life, Ron taught me the value of self-esteem. He saw not only what was great in people, but what could be great in them. And he expressed it with such confidence that you were forced to believe it yourself. I don't know where Ron is now, any more than I know where my grandfather is now. Both men were such larger-than-life presences, I somehow expected them to be around forever. I am, however, sure of one thing. More than anything else, Ron was so full of love that it literally sparkled through his eyes. Love for his friends, love for his passions in life, and above all, love for the 3 beautiful women in his life. Ron wouldn't abandon them, and he hasn't. None of them have any doubt that he loved them. And that love is going to stay with them forever, passed on to their children and their grandchildren, and in effect keeping Ron around forever, like I always thought he'd be. I'm not a religious person, but I'd like to read what I consider to be the most important and wholly true verse from the Bible. 1 Corinthians. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Ron was the most complete man I've ever known, because he realized long ago that love was the key. And he shaped his life to be a constant reminder of who and what he loved. He succeeded.
Okay, last up, until I talk again. Okay, well, right before last up, see if it just wants to say that.
It's going to be quick. This is impromptu because we're talking about Ron and I just got the 5 and I just have to say it. So my sister got to say something through the voice of who, and I just want to say something on the voice of Ron that it resonates. And that's the story about how he knew Ellen was the one. And he just basically said, she worked at Bob's Big Boy and we had one car. And I told her I would go pick her up after a shift. And I don't know, something else, like 45 minutes went by, I decided to do something else. And there's Ellen on the bench outside for shift, reading a book. And he's like, I'm really sorry, I'm late. She's like, you were? And that's how he knew she was the one. That's all I wanted to say.
Now, last up is my cousin Tony, and then my dad's cousin as well.
It feels good to cry, and it feels good to laugh, and it feels amazing to hear the stories. This might be the best card I've ever seen at a service like this. I'm looking at these words, and every one of these words means something. But dinosaur tamer? You gotta tell us the story. I looked at pianist, and my sister Carolyn was here from Nantucket, and we had a good laugh because she told me a story this morning, ironically enough, at breakfast. How Ronnie wanted to learn how to play the piano, and he said to her, I don't want to start any baby stuff. I want to learn rock mama. There he was. I don't know how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb anyway, so just start there. And as Carolyn said, everything was bigger with Ronnie. And that's how I feel. I feel like I think of the people who inspire me in this world, and they're people who not only can dream, but can share the dreams, and most importantly, put them into motion, who can lead and motivate and elevate those around them. And as everybody has said, and I know everybody in this room feels, can really know how to love and how to that's what Ronnie was to me. I had a lot of chances to spend time with him, even from a distance. My work travels would bring me to San Diego, and I also happen to live in 5 NFL cities, and sooner or later the Chargers were coming. And I could look forward to it. I would really hope for that visit. At the risk of sounding overly dramatic, those visits would last with me for days. They would carry me, because I feel like he did about family. I'll never forget in 1994, the Chargers came to Pittsburgh, where I was working for the AFC Championship. Nobody in the world, nobody, I don't think Bobby Ross, the head coach of the Chargers, thought they had a chance to win. Nobody! Except Ronnie. And Ronnie came out for the game, and he told me they were going to win, and he told me how they were going to win. And damn it, he wasn't right. And that stadium held 59,000 people, and 58,999 were stunned. And there was and he was right. And it's also one of the few recorded times in history that he wasn't barricaded in a room watching the Chargers game, as we know. Anyway, those visits were important to me. But the most significant visit that he ever made, this means a lot to me, was on December 18th, 2003, the night that Ronald died. There were 7 people in that facility in Massachusetts that night. My mother, my father, Carol and me, my brother and my sister, and Ronnie. And I cannot tell you, having history with him, knowing love of family, I know he knew, I told him, but I can't express to you what that meant to me, that he was there that night. Paul mentioned being from a loud family. We're loud. I was going to use the term great debaters, but that would lend an academic visual, and that's really not what I mean. I'm talking about screaming wildly during card games, basically. There's a game in Massachusetts called 45. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. Basically, it's a trump-based game, usually 2-on-2. And if my dad and Ronnie were partners, I'm telling you right now, you could have put it on pay-per-view and charged $49.95. It was that explosive. The memories are incredible. They're just incredible. I was thinking about this last night. If I could spend one more day with Ronnie, I would play 45. I would go to the Yangtze in West Bridgewater for Chinese food, for spares. I would cap it off with cigars and phenomenal conversation. He had a way, as everybody in piano, you talked about it, of thinking outside the box that just inspired me. And I didn't always agree with him. And it didn't matter if I didn't agree with him. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. There wasn't one time that I hung out with Ronnie that I didn't leave feeling a lot happier and a little smarter. I really loved and admired him very much. Thanks for letting me share.
So for Dinosaur Tamer, the reason I put that, when we got our dog Lucy, and I think she's about 8 now. When we got her, my mom thought there was something wrong with her mentally, because she could not be tamed. She was all teeth and she was all claws. My sister used to have to wear boots around the house because she would just hurt you with everything she did. And her mouth, the only time I could ever kiss her, I had to wrestle with her over a squeeze toy, and while she was biting that, I could kiss her, but she'd still growl at the same time. She didn't want to let go. So about the time she reached 2, she became the perfect dog. She was his best friend. They would just sit together and relax, and she'd be nervous about the Chargers, and he'd be nervous about the Chargers. And so that's why he's a dinosaur tamer. It was one of Charlie's friends at one point, came to our house, and they're like, "What, does she know any tricks?" And afterward, we were laughing because we're like, "She is the trick." We tamed a dinosaur. I'm really appreciative of everyone who came up and talked. I think that made my job easier because then I could just laugh about the stories that I like. So my 3 categories, and I'll try to be brief because I know it's been a long time that we've been in here, but the 3 categories that I'm going to go over a little bit. 1 is being Italian, 2, things he hated, and then 3, our bond. So for Italian, my 2 stories in that, he grew up in a very Italian family, we all did, and he was very proud of having that type of background. And he got to visit Italy twice during his life. One of the times he actually got to visit the town where our family was from. It was Peturo, and it was outside Naples. And he went there and he was all by himself. He didn't know Italian.